Hello there and welcome back to the channel. Today I am talking about Tetris, Apple TV's newest movie. Now I had the pleasure of finding this in a theater near me. I watched this on Sunday. The movie comes out at the time of recording tomorrow, March 31st on Apple TV, and I gotta say, y'all have to check this one out. Tetris is rated R. It's labeled as a mystery, thriller, and biography. It has an 80% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 92% audience score. And the summary goes as this: Tetris tells the unbelievable story about how one of the world's most popular video games found its way to avid players around the globe. Hank Rogers discovers Tetris in 1988 and risks everything by traveling to the Soviet Union, where he joins forces with the inventor to bring the game to the masses. Based on a true story, Tetris is a Cold War era thriller on steroids with double-crossing villains, unlikely heroes, and a nail-biting race to the finish. In many unique ways, Tetris takes a game about international video game rights and turns it into an exciting time in the movie theater, using animation, video game graphics, and even introducing new characters as Player 1 and Player 2 to bring entertainment and fun to a story that can easily fall into a lackluster category. While I was watching the movie, I even felt like it was more of a tame mix between The Big Short and last year's Weird, the Al Yankovic story. It's essentially an underdog story mixed with a political thriller about a man from a small video game company trying to get his hands on what could possibly be the biggest video game ever. Pulled in the height of the Cold War scare, our main character Hank Rogers has to infiltrate Russia basically to get his hands on said video game in order to pay off his debt, pull his family back together, and distribute the Michael Jordan of 80s entertainment. Now, of course, I'm gonna talk about the man that brought me to this movie, the reason why I wanted to go see this early: Taron Egerton. Egerton plays a role of Hank Rogers with immense charisma and a never give up attitude that sometimes you can just tell based off the look on his face. I honestly think most of this movie does not work if you don't have Taron Egerton in the leading role. He plays this character to perfection. He brings a lot of the tension, a lot of the emotion, again, just by the look on his face. Sometimes it's not even through dialogue. But when it is through dialogue, he brings so much to the plate, which kept me engaged on this wild ride. And when I say wild, I mean wild. There are points in this movie where I was on the edge of my seat watching Hank's life being threatened by this Russian mafia. And there were other moments where mere contract negotiations were enough to have my audience either groaning or cheering in the theater. And again, I'm so glad I watched this in the movie theater. The atmosphere was great. I took my buddy with me and I leaned over to him at a point and I was like, are you liking this? And he was like, dude, hell yeah. And I was like, yeah, I am too, because it was so much fun and I didn't really know what to expect from this movie. I went in not knowing anything about the story of Tetris, and I was treated. I left feeling very satisfied as well. However, I feel like the tension, I feel like this feeling of all this wackiness, of like all these contract negotiations, wanting Hank to win, wasn't consistent throughout the film. And again, I don't know how much of that has to do with being held back by what happened in real life. Like I said, I'm not familiar with the actual story of Tetris, but it just kind of led to the pacing feeling a bit all over the place at times. And then there were also a fair share of one-dimensional characters that kind of just played their character in the most stereotypical way. And it wasn't so much of a bad thing. It did offer a lot. It offered a lot of comedy and it offered a lot of like stakes at hand, and you took these characters as a threat to Hank's story. But if you don't really care about that, if you can look past that, it's still a fun time. It's not anything that really holds the movie down or drags it down too much. It was still plenty of fun. Other than that, this movie was an absolute hit with me, and I'm surprised at how much I liked it because, again, I went in with no expectations, not really knowing much about what was going to happen other than this was a movie about Tetris and how Tetris was brought to life. But director John S. Baird managed to turn a movie about contract negotiations, about video game rights, into a dramedy spy thriller that was honestly good enough to leave my audience cheering and clapping at the end of the movie, which I was not expecting at all. Like I said in the beginning, Tetris comes out on Apple tomorrow. I am asking anyone who's watching this or anyone that wants to keep up with 2023 movies to watch this. Taron Egerton again was phenomenal. A lot of the side characters were great as well. And overall, it's just a really fun story to just be immersed in for a couple hours. And whether you know the story of how Tetris was brought to life or whether you don't, I say just go in and prepare to have your mind blown. Again, some of the animation and the video game-ish graphics that they use adds a lot to the story. It adds a lot to what they're trying to tell. Otherwise, this movie probably wouldn't have sat well with a lot of people. It might have been boring. To me, I loved it either way, but the risks that they take and a lot of the flavor that they add to this movie helps it stand up to others and just elevates the movie so much more. So with all that being said, my final grade on this movie is an 84 out of 100. It falls to my third, maybe fourth favorite of the year. I'll have my Letterboxd ranking right here of movies I've seen in 2023. And so yeah, definitely a banger. And that's it for my review. Let me know if you're gonna watch Tetris. If you've already watched it, how did you feel about it? What did you think of the movie? Let me know all that good stuff in the comments down below. And without further ado, that's my review. Thank you for watching. Peace.